Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. So today we're taking a look at symmetry.
Okay.
But get this, we're going to be looking at it through the lens of the alphabet.
Interesting.
Yeah, our main source is all about this symmetry letter applet.
Hmm.
And it's on this website called Open Educational Resource Open Source Physics at Singapore.
Okay.
And you might think, letters, that sounds kind of basic, but trust me, this is way cooler than it sounds at first.
I can see that. Yeah, this page is like, it's not just about the applet itself.
Right.
It's like a jumping off point to all sorts of information about symmetry, teaching resources, like we've got embed codes,
Yeah.
learning goals for teachers, research notes,
Yeah.
and just tons and tons of links to other resources.
It's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
But like in a really good way. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa. I mean, this applet is even available in like, I don't know, Tamil,
Yeah.
German, Esperanto. So they're really trying to make this accessible.
Yeah, definitely. And offering these resources in so many different languages just shows how committed they are to making education, well, truly open, right, to everyone.
Exactly. So let's actually get to the applet itself. So it's called the Symmetry Letter JavaScript HTML5 Applet.
Okay.
And it focuses on something called line symmetry.
Before we jump into that, I think it might be good to just make sure that everybody listening knows exactly what we mean when we say line symmetry.
Yeah.
So basically, imagine you're folding a piece of paper in half. If the two halves line up perfectly, you got line symmetry.
Gotcha.
Think of a butterfly, right? Its wings are like mirror images of each other along that line down the center.
That's a great example. So could we say then that like anything can have line symmetry if you can draw a line through it and both sides are mirrored?
Yeah, pretty much. And you'd be surprised how many things actually have line symmetry, like from simple shapes like squares and circles
Right.
to much more complex structures like snowflakes or even the human body.
Okay. I never really thought about it that way. So, okay, this applet, it lets you basically play around with line symmetry using letters.
Yeah.
And they even give you the code to embed it right on a web page, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's a great way to just visualize this concept, right?
Yeah.
So the page lists several learning goals.
Okay.
And one that really caught my eye was the idea of being able to identify lines of symmetry in 2D figures and classify letters of the alphabet.
Okay. So that's like A and B are symmetrical, but F and G aren't. Is that all there is to it? It seems kind of basic for a learning goal.
Well, I think it's a bit more nuanced than it might seem at first.
Okay.
Because it's really about training yourself to see those spatial relationships and patterns,
Yeah.
right? So being able to recognize line symmetry in letters, that can help you to better understand geometry.
Okay.
And it's a skill that comes in handy in things like art and design, even everyday problem solving.
Ooh.
Okay. Yeah. No, I didn't think about those applications.
Yeah.
So it's not just about like knowing that certain letters are symmetrical. It's like building a foundation for spatial reasoning.
Exactly. Yeah. And to support that, like the creators of this resource, they didn't just stop at the applet. They also included these sections specifically for teachers, research notes. There's even a video.
Yeah. And speaking of going deeper, there's this whole section called Other Resources that's just packed with links to other websites. And some of these titles are really intriguing. Like there's one for rotating page technique.
Oh, yeah.
What's that about?
That one's really neat. So it links to this resource on GeoGebra, which is just this fantastic platform for exploring math concepts visually. And the rotating page technique, it's basically this hands-on way to demonstrate line symmetry.
Oh, cool.
So you take a piece of paper with a shape on it, rotate it 180 degrees, and then you see if it lines up perfectly.
Ooh.
It's like a really nice visual way to prove whether something has line symmetry or not. I love that. Like it's a really like real-world DIY way to explore this.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so they've got that. Tons of other links too. I'm seeing stuff about geometry tools, educational games, and even, wait a minute, a Flash animation?
Uh-huh.
Is that still even a thing?
Well, it shows you that this resource has been around for a while,
So true.
which, kind of speaks to its longevity.
Yeah.
But, yeah, even if some of the technology is a bit dated, the underlying concepts are still totally relevant.
Yeah.
And Flash animations, they can be a really engaging way to learn, especially for visual learners.
You're right. You're right. It's not always about having the latest, newest, shiniest tech. It's about finding the right tools to really make these concepts come alive.
Exactly.
So we've got the applet, we've got all this like supporting material, and then this like mega list of links. It feels like they've thought of everything.
And that's just the beginning. We still have so much more to unpack, and we're going to delve into some of these other links in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
Yes, because this is just part one of our exploration. We're just getting started with this topic, so be sure to come back for part two, where we'll continue our adventure into the world of symmetry. All right, so welcome back. Last time, we were started digging into this awesome resource all about symmetry,
Yeah.
and we were focusing on that symmetry letter applet and like all of the information that's kind of built around it on the page.
Right.
So remember that huge other resources section with all those links?
Oh, yeah.
We are diving back into that rabbit hole today.
It is a deep one.
It is.
And I think it's, it really shows how interconnected knowledge can be.
Yeah.
You start with this simple idea, like the symmetry of letters.
Right.
And then suddenly you're like exploring advanced geometry and educational technology and physics.
Yeah. So in the last part, we talked about a couple of the links, like the one for the rotating page technique on GuideQuiz.
Right.
But there's so much more in there to uncover. Like one that really caught my eye was this link to a Flash animation.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
About the line of symmetry of letters. Flash animation.
I know. It really does show how long this resource has been around.
Yeah, it takes me back.
But, a good teaching tool, well, it can be timeless.
That's true.
And a Flash animation, even if it seems a little retro now, can be really effective for teaching a concept like line symmetry.
Yeah.
Because it lets you see the concept in action.
Right. It's not just a static image.
Exactly.
Sometimes you really got to see it to get it,
Yeah.
And speaking of seeing things, clearly there's also a link to something called the Symmetry Artist.
Ooh, interesting.
Any idea what that is?
So, from what I understand, it's another interactive tool, and it lets you create symmetrical designs.
Oh, cool.
So it probably has like a drawing interface where you make marks on one side of a line,
Right.
and then the program automatically mirrors those marks on the other side,
Gotcha.
creating this perfectly symmetrical image.
That's so cool.
It's a really fun way to just explore the concept and let people unleash a little creativity.
Yeah, I can see that would be really engaging, especially for, visual learners.
Yeah.
Or anyone who likes to do art.
Totally. It takes
Yeah.
the concept of symmetry beyond just recognizing it and lets you actually create with it.
Yeah. Okay. Shifting gears a bit, I noticed a link in the other resources section that's just called apps. What kind of apps are we talking here?
So that link actually, it highlights the fact that this resource isn't limited to like just the website.
Okay.
They've actually developed apps
Oh, wow.
that bring these interactive tools and learning experiences to your smartphone or your tablet.
Right.
So you can literally explore symmetry on the go.
Oh, that's fantastic. Really
Yeah.
shows how they're adapting to different learning styles and just making these resources more accessible to everybody.
Yeah, and I think it just speaks to the broader trend of educational technology, like moving beyond just the desktop computer
Right.
and into our pockets, right? Learning can happen anywhere, anytime.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, another link that caught my attention was one that was just called activities. I'm kind of curious, what kind of activities do they offer to like help solidify this idea of symmetry?
I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand the concept of symmetry, but it's another thing to apply it.
Yeah.
So the activities link probably leads to like a collection of exercises or projects
Okay.
that challenge you to actually use your knowledge of symmetry in different contexts. This could involve anything from, identifying symmetrical objects around you to creating symmetrical designs or even solving puzzles
Oh, okay.
that rely on symmetry principles.
It's interesting. All these links seem to connect back to those learning goals that we were talking about earlier. Like, remember the one about classifying letters of the alphabet according to their symmetry?
Yeah.
These activities probably help to, like, put that knowledge into practice.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a great example of how a seemingly like simple concept can be explored and applied in so many different ways.
Right.
And I think that's the real beauty of this resource.
Yeah.
It provides multiple entry points for learning and allows you to delve deeper into the aspects that resonate with you most.
So we've got interactive tools, we've got animations, apps, activities. Is there anything else hiding in this treasure trove of other resources? I'm starting to feel like we're only scratching the surface.
Oh, we've barely even begun.
Oh, no.
There are links to articles and research papers and even other educational websites that delve deeper into specific aspects of symmetry. For example, there's a link to a resource that explores symmetry in nature, which I think is just fascinating.
Oh, my God.
It shows how this concept isn't just some abstract mathematical idea.
Right.
It's a fundamental principle that really shapes the world around us.
So we're going from playing with symmetrical letters to appreciating the symmetry in like a sunflower or a snowflake.
Exactly, yeah.
That's incredible. It really highlights how like interconnected everything is.
Exactly, and that's what makes this deep dive so exciting, right?
Yeah.
It's a journey that takes us from the simple to the complex, from the concrete to the abstract, from the digital world to the natural world. And we still have more to explore.
That's right. We're not done yet. Be sure to join us for part 3 of this deep dive, where we'll continue to kind of unravel this fascinating world of symmetry and the amazing resources that can help us to understand it. All right, so welcome back for the final part of our symmetry deep dive. It's been quite a journey, right?
It really has.
We started with this simple idea of like symmetrical letters.
Right.
And we've explored all these cool things, interactive applets, animations, even apps.
It's amazing how much there is to discover, even starting with something as basic as the alphabet, right?
Yeah. And of course, we can't forget that huge other resources section. We've talked about a bunch of those links already.
Oh, yeah, there are so many good ones in there.
But before we wrap things up, there's one more section on this website that I just have to point out.
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, what is it?
It's called NFAQ. And
Okay.
it's basically a mega list of like even more links. I'm talking over 100 links here.
Wow, okay, so like a curated rabbit hole.
Exactly. So if anything we've talked about has like really sparked your interest, you can definitely find a link to go even deeper.
I like that, yeah, because it could be super overwhelming to just have this massive list of links. But if you're like, oh, I really want to know more about, this specific thing,
Yeah.
chances are they've got a link for that.
Exactly. Okay, so let's say I am totally hooked on this whole symmetry thing.
Okay.
Like, where are some of the more, I don't know, unexpected places I might end up if I start clicking through all these links?
Well, you might find yourself reading about the role of symmetry in, like, music,
Oh, interesting.
or exploring this concept of symmetry breaking in physics,
Mm.
or even, like, delving to the psychology of, like, why humans find symmetrical faces attractive.
Oh,
There's so much there.
it's kind of mind-blowing. Like, we started with symmetrical letters,
Yeah.
and now we're talking about, like, physics and psychology and music.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so cool about this resource, right? It
Yeah.
really highlights how this seemingly simple concept
Mm.
has all these implications that go way beyond what we might initially think.
Yeah, definitely. This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. I started out thinking we were just going to be looking at letters, and now, like, I'm seeing symmetry everywhere.
That's awesome. And, that's the power of a really good educational resource.
Yeah.
It can spark curiosity, it can expand your perspective, and it can really just leave you wanting to learn more.
Definitely. So to wrap things up, I really encourage you to check out all the links we've mentioned, play around with that symmetry letter applet,
Yeah.
and just start noticing the role of symmetry in your own life, You might be surprised by what you discover.
Yeah, and remember, symmetry, it's not just a visual concept, it's a way of thinking. It's this really fundamental principle that kind of underlies so many aspects of our world. So keep an eye out for it, and you'll find it in the most unexpected places.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of symmetry.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.